Welcome back to Legends and Lore. We often hear stories of heroes fighting monsters to gain glory, but sometimes the monster is sent as a punishment. Today's story takes us to the ancient kingdom of Ethiopia, ruled by King Cetus and his incredibly beautiful but incredibly foolish wife, Queen Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia made a fatal mistake. In a fit of pride, she boasted that she and her daughter, Princess Andromeda, were more beautiful than the Nereids, the sea nymph daughters of Poseidon. You do not insult the family of the sea god. The Nereids complained to Poseidon, and his rage was oceanic. To punish the kingdom for the queen's hubris, Poseidon sent two things: a devastating flood and a nightmare. He sent Cetus. Often confused with the Kraken in modern movies, Cetus was a primordial Greek sea monster, a serpentine whale dragon of immense size. The kingdom was being destroyed day by day. Desperate, King Cetus consulted the oracle of Ammon. The oracle's answer was horrific. The only way to stop the monster is to sacrifice your daughter, Andromeda, to it. The king and queen were forced by their own terrified people to comply. They took beautiful Andromeda to the seaside cliffs, stripped her of her royal jewels, and chained her to the naked rock, leaving her to wait for the tides and the teeth of Cetus. But fate was not done with Andromeda. High above the clouds, a hero was flying home. Perseus, the son of Zeus. He was already a legend, carrying tools gifted by the gods: the winged sandals of Hermes, the helmet of invisibility from Hades, and a very special sack. Inside that sack was the severed head of Medusa the Gorgon, whose gaze turned flesh to stone. Perseus looked down and saw a strange sight: a beautiful statue chained to a cliff. Flying closer, he realized it was a woman crying. He was immediately struck by her beauty and her plight. He landed and asked her name and why she was chained. Before she could fully explain, a roar shook the coast. The sea began to boil. A mile out to sea, the massive head of Cetus broke the surface. The monster had come for its meal. Perseus wasted no time. He flew to the cliff top where the weeping parents stood. He made a deal. If I save her, she becomes my wife, and I take her to Greece. The desperate parents agreed to anything. The battle was epic. Perseus used his winged sandals to dart around the monster's massive jaws, slashing at its thick hide with his adamantine sword. But the beast was too big to kill with a blade. Perseus realized he needed his ultimate weapon. He told Andromeda to close her eyes. He reached into his sack and pulled out the head of Medusa, holding it high toward the monster. Cetus looked up. The creature met the dead gaze of the Gorgon. Instantly, the scales turned to gray granite. The thrashing tail became rigid stone. The sea monster became a new island off the coast. You might think the story ends with the wedding bells, but in Greek mythology, weddings are rarely peaceful. During the wedding feast, the doors burst open. Enter Phineus. He was Andromeda's uncle and her original fiancé, the same man who stood by and did nothing while she was chained to the rock. Now that the monster was dead, he wanted his prize back, and he brought an army. A massive brawl erupted in the banquet hall. It was Perseus against hundreds. Spears flew through the air, pinning guests to the couches. It was a massacre. Perseus fought bravely, but he was overwhelmed by the sheer number of soldiers. Realizing he couldn't win with a sword, Perseus shouted, "Let those who are my friends turn away their eyes." He pulled Medusa's head from the sack one last time. Phineus and his army froze mid-attack. The banquet hall was turned into a museum of horror, filled with statues of men striking violent poses. With his wife safe, Perseus returned to his homeland of Argos. But there was one loose thread: the prophecy. Years ago, an oracle told Perseus's grandfather, King Acrisius, that his grandson would kill him. That is why Acrisius had thrown baby Perseus into the sea in a chest. Hearing Perseus was returning, the terrified grandfather fled to a neighboring kingdom. Perseus, knowing none of this, traveled to that same kingdom to compete in some athletic funeral games. He stepped up to throw the discus. He threw it hard and true, but a freak gust of wind caught the heavy disc. It curved off course and struck an old man in the crowd, killing him instantly. The old man was Acrisius. Perseus had not sought revenge, but the fates cannot be cheated. The prophecy was fulfilled. Perseus was devastated. Because he had technically killed the king, he refused to rule Argos. He swapped kingdoms with his cousin and founded the mighty city of Mycenae. He and Andromeda lived happily, a rarity in Greek myths, and had many children. And through their bloodline, generations later, another hero would be born. A hero who would possess the strength of his ancestor Perseus, Heracles, Hercules. So the story of Perseus isn't just about killing a sea monster. It is the origin story of the greatest age of heroes the world has ever known. If you enjoyed this epic romance, please like and subscribe for more legends and lore. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video.